Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Oracle Wisdom. My name is Natalie, and we are going to pull some Oracle cards and see what the energies for the week hold. For everyone that was waiting for our Gemini Rising episode to drop with Evan Nathaniel Grimm, unfortunately, just due to scheduling, we had to postpone it. So I'm hoping to be able to drop the new date later this week. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Make sure you're following our Facebook page and Instagram, because I put all the updates there, the Gemini Rising show, if you're looking for that. And to everyone on High Vibe, I was trying to say hello in the chat. Every time I hit send, it wouldn't come through. I don't know what was going on, but I'm in the chat with you all. So I hope you all had a good weekend and are ready for what's coming this week. So tomorrow I had a look at the chart just before I started, and I think it's 12:40 p.m. Pacific time is when Pluto ingresses into Aquarius, and we will never see it in Capricorn again. So I don't know how everybody is feeling with the energies at the moment. But, just emotionally, I feel like it's been pretty heavy okay. I just had to restart the app for me. So yeah, it's been really heavy. I don't know. For me, there's been a lot of contemplation about relationships, where I am in the world at the moment, and, feeling quite hopeful about the energies just shifting a bit. So hopefully you're all feeling hopeful as well. We are going to get started with Wisdom of the Oracle. Just moving my keyboard so I have some space here. So never-ending story. I feel like that's appropriate considering everything that I had just said. I think it feels like everything that's going on will not shift or change, and we almost feel like we're stuck in this endless loop. And the reality is that's not where we're at all, but it is how it feels. And I think being at the end of this particular transit, being at the 29th degree, it's always incredibly intense. And when we're waiting for that shift to happen, it can get us completely focused on that and focused on the fact that we're not there yet. So you need to not be in your head. Flexible. So right before I started this show, this card jumped out of the deck, and I was actually going to keep it out. And then I went, no, if it's meant to show up, it'll show up once we're live. You have to stay flexible. I think we all have these thoughts, and we're anticipating a big shift, and we always go into these shifts with a vision of how we think it's going to go. And you have to stay flexible in terms of you need to take it as it comes. And if things don't happen exactly as you want them to, or is exactly as you picture them to, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're not going in the direction that you want. It doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen. It doesn't mean that the end result isn't going to be exactly what you've been manifesting. It just means that maybe you're taking a different path to get there. Maybe the universe has a better vision for how you're going to get there. So you need to, last week or a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, you need to be like a tree, flexible. When it gets windy, you bend, but you don't break. This is what you need to be this week. Keep that flexibility as you move through everything that's coming through. Not for you. So there are certain things that will end because they're not for you, and you have to be okay with that. There are certain things that we may want, or we think we want, and the universe says, I'm going with no. And as much as it sucks, it's generally because there is something better for you. I've talked about in episodes in the past, a particular job that I wanted, and I was just devastated when I didn't get it. And it was a year later that I was sitting there and looking at the people I was surrounded by in a different job, and I was so grateful that I hadn't gotten that job, because the other job led me to the people that were standing before me and that were changing my life in such an incredible way. So you have to take these things, and if you feel a certain way when something doesn't work, when something ends, it's fine. Feel the emotions, but let it go and trust that there's a reason why these things are being taken away from you. It's the same as when you lose a relationship and you feel like you will never heal and you will never love someone the way you love that person. And then a year, 2 years, 5 years later, you're in a relationship and you look at that person and think, thank God that other relationship didn't work out, because what would I do without this person in my life? So something not being for you is not a bad thing. Message in a bottle. Things are coming. Like, you never know when a message in a bottle is going to wash up on shore. That's the beauty and the excitement of finding a message in a bottle, right? You put it in there and you let the tides take it wherever it wants to take it. And when somebody finds it, and there are incredible stories throughout the years of these random people that find this message in a bottle, and then they track down the people that it came from and where it was meant to go, how long ago it was sent out. And it's really quite incredible. So the fact that that comes up right after not for you, just know that as something ends, something else comes in. Round and round. So this card in a lot of the decks talk about doing the same thing on repeat, doing it again and again and again. And it's often about learning lessons. When we don't learn the lesson, we repeat the behavior. And part of that has to end, in terms of, if it's a behavior that's not serving you well, you have to alter that behavior to be able to achieve a different outcome. But sometimes going around and around and around like that, each time you go around, you learn something new. You learn a better way. You learn a better way to handle that situation. You learn a better way to move on from something. So if you're finding yourself going around and around and around, you need to ask why you're having to learn this lesson over and over and over again. And once you figure that out, that's when you're able to let that behavior go. But if you are stuck in that loop, have a look at how you're handling the situation now versus how you handled it a month ago, a year ago, however long you've been doing this, and see how much has changed and altered. The reality is, as we have this huge change for the collective with Pluto moving into Aquarius, there are going to be changes. It's inevitable. This is what happens when these outer planets move into new signs. So just know that now is probably the perfect time to shift these behaviors, to really have that introspection as to why we're doing the things that we're doing, so that we can find a way to move forward and do it differently and have a different outcome. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So I feel like as we're on this precipice, it's up to you to decide how you want this transition to go. Do you want it to be something good and something that helps you grow and move forward and achieve different things? Or are you going to try and hang on to the past and stay stuck in that place because you're scared of having things shift? Okay, one last card from this deck. TikTok. I feel like everyone's so focused on time. And the fact that I purposely looked up what time Pluto is making that shift, does it really matter? We know what's happening tomorrow. So we've got a lot of elements of time in this reading. And I think I don't think that's what we need to be focused on. I think we need to be focused on the journey. I think we need to be focused on our own growth. I think we need to be focused on moving forward, and you need to stop being focused on the time, how long it's taking, how long I've been here, how long it's taking me to move anywhere. It's just, I don't think it matters. I think what matters is the development and allowing the universe to take you to a new place if you're ready to go. Because you've got to remember that we have free will in this journey. We can decide where we're going and what we're doing. And when you are flexible with things and you don't get stuck on that fixed idea of this is how it needs to go, all of a sudden the journey's a little more enjoyable. It's a little easier because you're not fighting against it. Allowing the things that need to leave your life because they're not for you, feeling the emotion and all of that, but then also letting it go and respecting the decisions of the people or the situation, that's going to make your life easier in the long run. If you torture yourself trying to hang on to things, and if you stay stuck in that space, you're never going to find the message that's coming for you. All right, so now I am using Work Your Light Oracle cards by Rebecca Campbell. Warrior Woman, have you answered your deepest calling? So here's the whole thing. It's a moment to go within and really figure out where it is you want to go and if you are where you're meant to be. Only you can answer that question. When you are following your deepest calling, it's not necessarily an easy road, but what it does do is it fulfills you every day. You move forward, and when you hit those obstacles, it is a little easier to be flexible. So again, it depends on what sort of life you want. Pleiades, double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. I feel like we're still in Scorpio season, and the veil always thins during Scorpio season. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, and that represents the underworld. And I feel like it's such a great time to tap into things. I had dinner with somebody over the weekend, and she was telling me about a dream. And the reality is she was astro traveling. It was one of the most incredible dreams I've heard about in the longest time. And I feel like it is a moment in time where people really are, when you're doing the work and when you really are looking within and you are connecting and you are grounding yourself and you are paying attention to the messages, because every time you pay attention and every time the universe sees that you're connecting and you're hearing, it gives you more and more and more and more. People will always say it's like a muscle that you're strengthening. And I mean, the double mission, connecting to the warrior woman inside or man, and channeling and uplifting humanity is the other side of that mission. And just by grounding, just by doing that light work, you're uplifting humanity. You don't need to be doing something in the public forum, but it's when you're operating at a higher vibration, that affects everybody around you. And then as more of the people around you are lifting their vibration, it helps the people around them. And so just by being in that space, just by connecting, just by doing these things to raise your vibration, you're helping everybody around you. So are you doing that work? And again, you can't do that work if you're staying stuck in the past and you're clinging to the way things used to be done. If you're clinging to the people or the situations that aren't for you, that's not going to work. Boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? So a lot of what I've been reading about Pluto in Capricorn has been focused on relationships and what is healthy and what's not. And I will say, for me, the contemplation of life as we're at this 29th degree and the very last minutes of Pluto in Aquarius, for me, a lot of it has been relationships. And I've been going internally a lot deeper than just the relationships that are in my life currently. I've been thinking about things that happened years and years ago when I was younger, when I was a child, my relationship with my families, and having certain realizations, it is okay to put boundaries in place. And maybe it's time as these shifts are happening for you to establish new boundaries with the people in your life, and also for you to respect the boundaries put in place by the people in your life, because maybe they're growing and they need something different, and this is where you need to be flexible and honor what it is they're asking of you. All right, so one more of these. Soul family, calling your tribe, you don't have to do it alone. So there are plenty of people around you that want to be there to be with you and to support you. And I know at times it feels like you're doing it on your own, or you need to do it on your own. But as you move forward and as you also let go, and I've said this a million times and I will say it a million more, when you let go of the people and situations that don't serve you, the right people come in. Getting out of an incredibly abusive relationship, when I was with him, I wasn't surrounded by good people because he wasn't surrounded by good people. He was at such a low vibrational level, and it eventually drags you down. And not long after we had broken up, I was sitting out one Sunday afternoon and I was surrounded by incredible people, musicians and people that were doing such great things, and they were so talented. And I remember sitting there and thinking, my mum was right. You lie with dogs, you get fleas. But it's the same thing if you're hanging on to someone who's just not necessarily a bad person. I'm using a very extreme example. But when you're around people that aren't good for you and don't treat you that well, or don't want the best for you. And sometimes it's as simple as we outgrow friendships, we outgrow relationships. I think many of us have had relationships that have ended not because of anything bad, but because we've outgrown the person we were with. It doesn't take away from the beautiful memories that you've created, but it's time to move on because there's just nothing left. And that's okay. But when you do that, you then find people that match your vibration. And so if you don't have a soul family yet, just know that as you move through things and move forward, and as you're growing, they will appear and they will come to you. That I can promise you. And I say that with absolute certainty because it happened for me. And it's happened time and time again as I've moved through life and different situations and had different friendships fall away. I find myself in a better spot and with better people that I can rely on and call on, and it's not as difficult to reach out and ask for help. So the final deck is Keepers of the Light Oracle cards by Kyle Gray. So the first one is Sanat Kumara, Light Activation. Shine your light. Your internal guidance is coming through loud and clear. You have to trust the calling that you're getting. there is an inner wisdom that we all have, and you have to listen to it. And part of that strengthening that muscle is that it's listening to that. And every single person has it within you. And if you're not sure about that, go back and watch Gemini Rising with Season Vega. We talk at length about people developing their gifts and the support that is or isn't there in the community. But how everybody has these gifts, it's whether you tap into them or not. So, and I fully believe that everybody that finds these videos, because I don't advertise them. I was talking with Anne before we started the live. I don't do shorts. I don't do anything. So whoever finds these videos, I know is already a light worker or is at least already on the path, and they are sort of doing the work. So nothing I'm saying, I don't think, is strange for anyone that's watching this. White Eagle, ancestor spirit. Connect to your lineage. A family wound or pattern can be healed now. And this was exactly what I was talking about. The contemplation for me over the last few weeks, and especially in the last sort of few days, has been about a lot of family trauma and things like that. But whenever our family members pass, they are, no matter how bad it was in this life, they are supporting us and guiding us on the other side. The anger and the vitriol and the damage that is done and the mistakes that are made, they're made on the human plane. Once they get to the other side, that dissipates, and they do want what's best for us. And carrying that trauma, it's hard work. It's dead weight that you don't need. And so if you can tap into that and take a real look at it and start healing it, you're going to be doing yourself a huge favor. The other thing is, with that, if you need help, go and find someone that can help you work through all of that. I had 5 years of hard therapy many, many years ago, and it absolutely changed my life working through a lot of that. And I say this as I'm about to dive into a different type of healing work that's going to be really intense and dive into all the same things. So if it's stuff that you can move through on your own, great. If not, start exploring how you can move through it and what you need to do to be able to free yourself of it, because it's not about freeing anybody else. It's about freeing you. And the last card, Dwal Kul, Dharma unfolding. Remember that you are on a path. Take one step at a time to happiness. This for me just confirms everything that I just said. This is a process. I mean, I feel like this is a positive reading, but there is hard work associated with this. And the issues that we've been talking about are pretty huge. So don't think that all of this stuff, especially if you're dealing with past trauma or anything that comes from the ancestral lineage, it doesn't need to be healed in a week. But this is where it begins, and you can do it one step at a time. I hope this resonated with some of you, if not all of you. As I always say, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Thank you, everyone, for your support and for joining me in the live. I'm assuming there are people on High Vibe that are watching. My chat's not working. All I can see is my two little hellos. So if you're in the chat and I'm not responding, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for joining me. The Fiery General, thank you so much for joining me on YouTube. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and keep your eyes peeled. I will let you all know when Evan Nathaniel Grimm is joining us on Gemini Rising, and I will see you all next Monday. Thank you, Anne.